You're listening to a Meatsmith Harvest. This is the podcast that encourages and equips you to grow your home around the harvest. This Farmstead Meatsmith production is made possible by you. If you like it, please consider supporting our team by going to patreon.com/meatsmith and donating at a level you'd enjoy giving at. Your gift helps us increase the quality and quantity of all our free media education. Thank you, and happy harvesting. Hi, Meatsmiths. It's me and Therese and Beatrice here with Brandon in the background, and this is a different way to begin our podcast episode, but I wanted to let you know ahead of time that we've looked at the recording we did a few days ago and the audio failed on us. So I'm hoping you guys have heard that this is very normal for podcasting, and so we ask your forgiveness for that. So the ensuing recording was done on Facebook with much poorer quality sound and as well as visual, but I think it's still passable, and we just wanted to get the content to you. So I hope you can enjoy, and thanks for being patient with our technical lack of expertise. And so I hope you enjoy the content, and more than that, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and whenever this podcast reaches you, and have a good 2021. And happy harvesting. Bye-bye. Welcome, Meatsmiths. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Meatsmith Harvest. We are in December, mid-December, when we're recording this. To be exact, December 12th.
Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
That's right. That's how I know it. I forgot the actual day, though. Yes. So hopefully we can turn this episode around and get it to you before Christmas. In which case, I should say Happy Advent and Merry Christmas when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing?
Good.
This afternoon?
I'm doing well. I am on my second pot of coffee.
You're ready to go. Maybe that's why you were so jumpy a second ago.
Oh, you mean that time when I dropped a trivet on our router? Yeah. Whatever that thing is called.
Time,
modem.
Yeah.
Is modem even a word anymore? Do we use that anymore?
I don't know. I think that is a router.
Okay.
But there might be a modem involved somewhere on this property.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I dropped a trivet thereon.
Trying to fix the lighting.
Yeah.
And it
because
failed.
You see, our production studio is also the butcher shop and kitchen and festal gathering place.
Yeah, so there's literally like hooks above his head as he's squeezing his Filson hat through the cracks behind the computer, trying to diagnose and investigate the damage that was done.
Just to upload all of the camera things. Okay.
So anyway, our internet's back on. So now we have our members that can join us. We've had a couple sign in already. And so if you're joining us on our Meatsmith Table Facebook page for members only, please send us your questions. We'd love to answer them. As broad or as narrow as you like. Mm-hmm. So yes, mid-December. We could talk about so much today. How about, can you tell us what you did this morning, and then how that might fit into what you've been doing all busy season?
Okay, maybe. What did I do this morning? Oh, it being the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, it is our habit to eat food from our notion of somewhere in South America. And so we made carnitas again.
Yeah.
Which I feel like every time we have a podcast, I have recently made carnitas for at least the last 3 podcasts.
That's right.
So if it sounds like all we cook is carnitas, it's just an accident of coincidence of podcast timing with carnitas making.
Yeah.
So I am very excited about the carnitas that we just made, but you guys might be tired of hearing about it. But it was great. What we have found it to be is an excellent freezer emptier technique. Yeah. And, especially I'm at the point now where, it's a confession, I guess. I feel kind of bad about it. I don't.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I pretty much don't eat frozen meat, previously frozen meat.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, actually, carnitas is the example of the exception, which is why I bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
But if I am going to fry up, for example, a pork chop, the fresh thing is so good. And you know what? It's also a bit of laziness on my part. It's not just good, it's effortlessly tasty. Like, it's easy. It's ridiculous. Like, it shouldn't be as good as it is, considering how easy it is to fry it up. It's so easy when it's fresh. When it's been frozen, that little, even dutifully and slowly thawed out, it just loses a little bit of that magic. So what I tend to do is throw a bunch of previously frozen pork chops into a big pot that is full of hot lard. And that's what I did this morning. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about making carnitas from chops is that it goes pretty quick. It only took me like an hour and a half of solid cooking, where it's all chopped, submerged in leaf lard, and I threw in a bunch of halved and squished oranges, some demerara sugar, and some salt, and then chopped it all up. And we're gonna have carnitas tonight. And I'm very excited about that.
Okay, here's a question related. David, our member, asks, he was enjoying Taco Chronicles on Netflix.
Oh,
have you heard of that? Okay. And find traditionally it's a whole animal dish.
Yes.
Do you follow the traditional or go with large bone-free cuts?
No. So I try to follow the traditional whenever I make it. Right now, in the economy of our kitchen, whatever is in the freezer from the porcine animal goes to carnitas. Most of the time.
Trotters.
Yeah. So, but I did slaughter pigs this summer, and I did devote specifically some fresh meat there too to carnitas, which involved shoulder, bone in, and skin on, plus extra sheets of skin, plus trotters. Yeah. So that all goes into the carnitas. And I didn't do this, but traditionally, I think, and ideally, you throw in some botas, the stomachs of the pigs.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, bones. I almost said hair. No, don't put hair in there. Bones, skin, fat. Yeah. Yeah, do it. Yeah. And even like intestine. If you want to clean out the intestines, throw them in there. Chitlins, because it goes in a taco. Yeah. And a taco is a magical place. It's a little spherical wonderland in which anything tastes effortlessly delicious. It's just incredible. It's a miracle. Especially when you have some zingy, raw onion and cilantro and lime, lots of lime juice. It's so good. Yeah. And it's eminently deliverable to your face. It's like, whatever. I'm going to get too ontological here. But it's made for your mouth. Just is so generous in that way. It's food that stoops to fit in your mouth. You could go perfectly. Homer Simpson on us. It's one magical starch circle. That's right. Yeah, it's got everything. It's got your protein, your vegetables, your fat, and your carbs. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. Tacos are a judgment-free zone, David says. This is true. That's what we're trying to say. That is universal right there. It's like someone else is celebrating the feast tonight, too. Yeah. Fajitas. Beautiful. Great. Yeah. So it's nice to get to use that stuff that way.
I wanted to, before we talk about more content, I wanted to talk about Christmas for people.
Okay.
Because we're in that time of year.
Mhm.
And so it would be appropriate to just mention to people that we have gifts for every budget to consider.
Oh.
Victoria just sent a newsletter mentioning that, and so she kind of outlines. We've got a few dollar items up to like a membership. You can buy a hat for like what
That's
is
right.
it? How much? I forgot how much we're selling that for, but it's online. Those are really pretty.
Which is a mesh hat, ideal for summer, and it needs to be conditioned with the blood of pigs and feathers. It's your slaughter hat.
That's right. Yeah, and we actually had some members sporting them this
That's
season,
great.
and we saw pictures of them
Yeah.
slaughtering their first pig. Anyway, we can talk about that later. But we also have classes we're selling at the $1,000+ level, and that gets you. We've talked about it endlessly on here, but 3 days with you with 8 other people from around the country, learning hands-on kind of what we do.
2 pigs, slaughter, curing, and cookery.
And people buy that for their father, their son, their mother, their brother, their fiance, their significant other. People come in couples sometimes with parents or spouses or things. So
I don't think that's going.
no, I forgot to start the IG. We can start that. We also have a membership that is more at like the low to medium range, a nice, comfortable gift giving level. So that's at 150 or so. I can't remember.
For a year?
I don't have the numbers in my head right now, but yeah, for a year. And people are joining right now.
They really are.
This is the time.
It's awesome.
Because so we're getting lots of new, fresh excitement in the forums and in the Facebook page. People who have joined, particularly because they are harvesting their own pigs for the first time ever, and it's really exciting to see them document what they've done just by like scouring through our archives and just the paid membership content. So.
Oh.
What?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So there's membership as an option for a gift too. People will buy these things for their friends and family for Christmas all the time, and it's a thing. So consider that. If anyone has been listening to the podcast for years and they just want to get their feet wet, this is a great way to do that. So.
Yeah, and it gives you the ability to, in real time, ask questions during the podcast and participate. And then, in addition to that, we do a monthly live chat on the closed Facebook group, where we can do even more of that.
Yeah, that's even more like another. It's like a podcast.
Yeah.
Only my mediation is completely gone, and people field the questions.
Yeah, just me and members.
Yeah.
And if you don't give me good questions, I read arcane, weird recipes from old cookbooks.
In like Middle English.
So fun.
Cool. Well, since we're talking about Christmas or Advent, can we talk a little bit about what we've been up to in this time of year, seasonality, with our eating, or just how your busy season's been going, which tends to end right before Christmas?
Yeah, I try to do that. Yeah. Yeah, well, you have to remind me of the things we've eaten. A lot of our eatery has been delayed, has been postponed. Because we calendar our feasts, or I did. I really tried. I tried to calendar the feasts. You got to calendar your harvesting, or it's just life gets in the way.
Yeah.
And but I know one thing we were able to do, which was great, was I was able to harvest 2 of our gooses, 2 of our geese, and I got to roast goose, and that was awesome. That was kind of for Martinmas, because you see, Martin was very well beloved, Saint Martin, by his people, so much so that they wanted to make him bishop. And what happens when you're a saint and people want to make you bishop is you run. You run away. And he did.
Yeah.
And he ran and he hid. And if you have geese, you know what happens. If you're trying to be sneaky around geese, it is for naught. It does nothing.
Oh, yeah.
They are the watchbirds.
Yeah.
They are so loud. They will honk and sound the alarm. And so a cacophony of geese announced St. Martin's presence in the bush, and he was seized by the people and made bishop.
Uh-huh.
So it was a lot of fun to harvest our geese. They were 10.5 pounds.
Yeah.
And which was great. There's lots of fat.
Mm-hmm.
We probably captured over a pint from each roasting goose.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say, does that sound about right?
More.
Yeah, more than over a pint.
Sorry.
over a pint.
At least.
Not quite a quart from each, I would say.
Well, if you count the fat that was used in the meal,
Oh,
then yeah, it was
Yeah.
at least a quart.
okay. Yeah, that's right.
But then what was left over that I could use in subsequent meals,
Mhm.
yeah, it was like between a pint and a quart.
So they were wonderful. I thought they were delicious. Did we talk about this?
No.
Oh, okay,
we've
great.
We've been talking about raising geese.
But not about eatery.
No, I don't
Okay.
think we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I stuffed them with chestnuts and shallots.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about that kind of stuffing before.
Yeah,
but-
it was so wonderful. You roast the chestnuts for about 40 minutes in moderate oven, having already scarred their outsides, and then a great, afternoon job with the kiddos is to peel chestnuts.
Mhm.
And then I like to gently simmer them in obscene amounts of butter, lots of butter. And then dump upon them a generous anointing of buttery whiskey, of caramely, sweet whiskey,
Mhm.
and let it flambe. And it locks in this just even more sweet, even more, like that resiny, sweet, maple syrupy, caramely flavor in the chestnuts with the addition of that whiskey in particular.
Mhm.
So I like to do that with some of the shallots.
Mhm.
And then, dried fruits are good. I can't remember if I did that, but then you just stuff the body cavity with it, and I do sew it back up. I sew it back up
Oh, okay.
with a needle and a very stout threading,
Mm-hmm.
used by barbecue guys, pit barbecue guys, big, nice stout needle. And you can sew it back up, and then you roast them. And the thing about roasting a goose is, this is why I want to do turkeys and geese. They shrink considerably in size because of all the subcutaneous fat that renders from them, which you capture dutifully in a very deep-sided roasting pan underneath the goose.
Mm-hmm.
And they're great. They're delicious. Our birds they're starting to tip the scale towards getting a little tough just because of their age.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they were still quite good.
Mm-hmm.
They were still awesome.
Yeah.
But they shrank considerably.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I think I just did olive oil and salt on the outside. I always keep that super simple.
Yeah.
It was very good. Captured all the fat. And again, I think we've talked about this, but you have to do it to know what I'm saying. When I say that goose fat and potatoes is another thing,
Yes.
that is an enigma that is untouched by even duck fat, which is also glorious. Goose fat, it is special with the potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Little. You can't even call them French fries because it's too folksy. It's a step up from that.
it is. The crispiness on the outside is it's truly incredible without drying out the potato. So goose fat was very special. And I think the roast, it was like $3.25 for 2 hours.
Yeah.
2.5. It's a long roast because it's an older bird.
Right.
It's not a young broiler that's 4 to 6 weeks old that you can just blast in a hot oven in 40 minutes and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
It's older, so you need that extended time to break down some of the tougher collagen and such.
But you put it on like a rack, right?
Yeah.
Inside of a pan.
Yeah, I have a big deep dish hotel pan, and then I just set it up on a little, little oven rack.
Uh-huh.
It only gave it like 3/4 of an inch
Yeah.
above the pan, but it prevents it from sticking to the bottom of the pan
Right.
and kind of deep frying in its own lard.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so it's easier to pour off the lard and it's purer, because if the goose is sticking to the bottom of the pan, those little bits are burning.
Uh-huh.
You know how it does
Mhm.
when it sticks to the bottom of the pan and it burns. And that can make the fat bitter. So it's
Mhm.
nice to keep the fat as pure
Mm-hmm.
and as sweet as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to slaughter the other geese, the full moon, because I read somewhere in some old cookbook that the goose waxes with the moon.
Uh-huh.
It does get bigger as the moon does.
Uh-huh.
And then you kill it. But my truck broke down.
Oh,
And that threw my whole schedule
right.
off of the goose harvesting.
that's right.
Consequently, we have 6 geese still honking at us and policing the property with way too much intensity, and they need to go. So
I know. We're
I
totally.
think Monday.
Yeah.
Monday.
Okay.
I gotta get it done. But
I can't even walk outside without them honking at me.
oh yeah, you walk out the door and it's just instant.
Yeah.
They're good watchdogs. I do love them, and I'm excited to kill them all and get goslings in the spring after having built a much more manageable pasture rotation setup for them,
Mm-hmm.
because they will, which we've talked about,
Mm-hmm.
they are just excellent grazers.
Mhm.
They eat grass,
Mhm.
so it pays off a lot to manage little paddocks for them,
Mhm.
because they will do it.
Mm-hmm.
They will. That's really what they want more than anything is
Mhm.
grass. They
Mhm.
love to graze.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah, the kids have been enjoying them.
Hmm.
Every time we leave the property, we wave out the window
Yeah.
and say, "Bye, geese,"
Hmm.
and then they honk at us, and
Yeah,
it's delightful.
they're very personable birds.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call them affable.
No.
A little rough around the edges.
Yeah. I mean, it has gotten to the point where our 2-year-old can't really walk outside.
If they get out of their fence, I did plug a hole in that. So
Yeah. Okay.
they've been climbing through a hole in the polywire.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pommes frites. That's it.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
there you go.
I was looking for that word.
French fries.
Yeah. Well, you know what made it so special this year too for me is we've talked about this a little bit, but
Mhm.
fasting. I had been fasting
Hmm.
in the morning, not eating breakfast.
Yeah.
And so really learning how to regulate that appetite.
Yeah.
And which has been very rewarding. But so then at the same time, and we talked about this before, when you fast, you really learn how to feast.
Yeah.
It's sort of this two sides of the same coin
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just enjoy these foods so much more.
And I think you can even make a biological argument for it, because if you're in an intermittent fasting state, the ideal would be to be in ketosis,
Yeah.
which means at midnight on Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
when you at Christmas Mass, when it's officially Christmas, after that, you are all ready to feast.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the old accounts of Christmas feasts, literally they are after the midnight Mass.
Mm-hmm.
You would think you'd be tired, but no, you are hungry
Yeah.
because you've been fasting the day before.
Yeah.
And in anticipation of Christmas Mass. So only someone that is in ketosis can eat the sheer volume of rich, fatty meats
Yeah.
that happen on Christmas feasts.
Yeah.
It is glorious.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
try to do something like that.
Yeah.
How many people do you know you would say truly share your back to the land values? Or your passion for home-scale craft meat curing? Or simply love the multifaceted beauty of a good meal as obsessively as you do? Maybe a handful? At farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we've created an online community of hundreds of omnivores from around the world and a platform for them to learn from and inspire one another. In addition to our major semi-annual hands-on educational event, the family pig, here at our Pacific Northwest homestead. Over at farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we host a purely digital membership program with an archive of film and textual resources years deep now, for you to dive deeper into your food journey with. And both our classes and online program include access to our private community Facebook page for your continued education and fellowship. We've been told that our classes are life-changing and the membership program unparalleled in quality and quantity. To get a taste of our education, search farmsteadmeatsmith.com and our YouTube channel for our free films, conversations, and downloads. Explore how we and other meatsmiths across the globe may best come alongside you, putting the knife in your hand, article by article, and comment thread by comment thread, and can support you in building your home around the harvest. Please head to farmsteadmeatsmith.com today.
Real quick, we have a good question here I wanted to drop on you. So someone is saying, Caleb is saying, I cured most of my back fat and was wondering if I can use it in some venison sausage making. I even smoked one huge piece and had it just for the heck of it.
Nice.
Is there any difference in using uncured versus cured back fat in sausage?
The tricky thing would just be to account for the salt content, which when you're salting the sausage in general. Excuse me. Because the rule is 2% salt by weight.
You okay?
Yeah, just forgetting how to speak. So a good venison sausage, good anything really, is salted at 2% by weight. But if third of that sausage mass is already salted back fat, you might want to salt it at a little less in general. So that would be the only variable. What else have I found with cured back fat? I mean, the answer is just go for it. It'll be awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't even worry about it. If there is any difference between using cured back fat, you might find that if you're hanging it in room temperature, and I don't know if this is effect of the curing, I'm just not sure, but it almost seems a little more oily than uncured back fat. And that's just my observation. I haven't verified that or anything. That's just what I have found. If you grind cured back fat, it releases its oils a little more readily than raw back fat. And that could just be because the cured back fat is hanging at room temperature, whereas the uncured back fat is usually coming straight out of the fridge, right off a chilled carcass. It could just be that. It could just be a temperature difference. In any case, I would say your best bet at utilizing that cured back fat and the oils that might come out of it are to try to make an emulsified sausage. Not necessarily like the hot dog or the bologna where it's rubber, because you need mechanical assistance to get to that, but just follow the ratio, which you'll find on the harvest films. The ratio of 5-4-3, 5 parts lean venison, 4 parts cured back fat, 3 parts water, and then mix it so sufficiently just by hand such that there's no more standing water in the tub. And spices, and then go beyond a little bit. Just really put some elbow grease into it. And the magic of that is it will bind a lot of those oils. Going back to the oil thing, which might tend to run out of a non-emulsified sausage. So I would, but that's like, that's kind of
taking it to
that's going beyond. I think even if you did just
the answer is yes.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah,
it'd be awesome. But to retain as much oils as possible. Emulsify.
Okay. What is Mr. Bob saying? Peel the potatoes and set in cold water for a couple of hours, then dump, rinse, and repeat. And he's going into
the pommes frites.
How to make them crispier and more
get
perfect.
them crispy.
So the clearer your water, the more starch you've taken out, making a crispier fry.
Brilliant. Yeah.
the par cook is critical, and if not done long enough at a correct temp will result in a fry that goes limp after a short time after the second frying.
Yeah, interesting. So you parboil them a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
First, which extracts some starch, which maximizes their crisposity capacity.
Yeah.
I like it.
And that's the point.
Yeah. And yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
Do that with the goose fat.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about the truck?
Oh, the truck.
Just to make other people feel better about their
Yeah,
lives.
it's amazing. How one thing just throws off the whole schedule, which is weird because I can still use my truck.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was
You're limping along.
yeah, my
Mhm.
slaughter truck, which is just a box truck, many of you have seen it. I was getting off of. I got on the ferry with a truck that ran normally and sounded exactly like it always does, and then I disembarked the ferry with a wheezy, old, crippled truck that had just like dropped its bottom out and was creeping up the hill and screeching and wheezing the whole way. So I thought,
Oh.
wow, what a difference a ferry trip makes. And I don't know what it was. And then I eventually did get to take it to my local mechanic here, who, as I was pulling up,
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Hey, Brandon, that's the exhaust manifold." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Is that connected to the flux capacitor? And can we fix that, please?" Because I have no power. It's not all the bolts on the exhaust manifold are sheared off. They're gone. So it's just sitting there like rattling in the motor. And I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, if the bolts are gone, why is it staying in there? And I don't know. Okay, whatever. So it's it's wheezing. It's not getting enough air to spin the turbo. Consequently, it has no power O. And so I go up the ferry hill in like third gear, which means 12 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so I wait for everyone to get off the ferry, and then I creep and creep up that thing. And it's a bummer. And so, yeah, it's the thing that really got us, though, was having to take it over town. So my local friend and Vashon mechanic said, "The guys in Seattle can do this way quicker than I can." Those were his words.
Famous last
words. Yeah, so
like 3 months ago or something.
yeah, and I still think he's probably right, but well, maybe. So which to us is like, just take it over to Seattle, be quicker. You gotta understand when you say that to someone with 7 children.
Well, yeah, because it's getting me involved now. You've got to
just go to Seattle. One does not just go to Seattle.
No.
That is not us, at least.
Especially not
Oh
post-apocalyptic
my
Seattle.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, yeah, maybe in another life.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, so you can't go to any parks. You can't, and it's freezing and wet. You can't go into any restaurants because there's 25 of us, and you can't have more than 3 at a table. That might be an exaggeration, but
Which we've tried.
yeah, there's 9 of us, and you can't have more than 6 at a table, even if it's the same household. So basically, no families allowed anywhere in Seattle, which is
was
kind of how it's
almost,
always
yeah.
been.
It's almost always been that. We
Yeah.
just like labeled it now.
Yeah. So basically, all the kids have to stay in the car for a really fun ride over to Seattle. So we did this. We brought my wheezy box truck, spluttering and spitting and wheezing and going very slow all the way to the shop in South Seattle, which is a fine neighborhood, by the way. Really great, really welcoming. And
it used to be decent.
yeah,
It was.
I know.
Yeah.
And then we dropped it off, and then all went home. And then you see we had to go back to pick it up. So we had to do it all again.
Yeah.
Fill the barge with all the children and go again.
Uh-huh.
And
And this was just to diagnose and get the part.
right. Yeah, so they diagnosed it and they said, "Okay, tell you what, we'll order the parts, and they're going to be about what was it? $85,000 or no, wasn't that? It's a
It was
lot.
a quarter of the worth of the truck. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's a lot. And they said, but we can't get the parts for a month.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and give us money now, and we'll get the parts, and then come pick up your truck so you can use it for your work. So then we had the pleasure of going back to Seattle, paying them our firstborn child, and then
all of the savings that we've had for this busy season
yeah,
so far,
I know,
that was it.
It's just gone. It's out the door.
Yeah.
And then we got to drive the truck back home,
Uh-huh.
so I can do 3 more jobs. I had 3 more jobs I had to do with my wheezy old crippled truck.
Which you're like white knuckling through
The whole
time.
yeah, just please don't suck in cold air and crack the motor or explode the gigawatt or whatever. I don't know. It's just anxious driving experience.
With 12 of the customer sheep in the back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Please keep driving. So we do that. I pay them the money and we go back to the ferry. And when I get to the ferry dock, the ferry worker's like,
Well, hang on. Sorry,
oh, yeah,
I have
what?
to interrupt
oh,
because
there's more.
on the way, you didn't know this, but I'm driving behind you with all
Yeah.
the kids in their van,
Mhm.
and we're driving behind you,
Yeah,
and you're going up the hill and you're creeping, and
Mhm.
I wasn't used to that yet.
yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I know he's driving
Going
kind of
slow.
cautiously, but there's like smoke billowing out of your truck.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know if he knows this is happening.
And I did not.
No, you didn't. And I ended up calling you.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, this is what it's been doing. And you didn't see the smoke.
Yeah.
You just heard the noise.
And I knew I was going slow.
The kids were like, is Daddy's truck going to blow up? Because we're all just watching you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, honestly, I'm praying my rosary. I've got like my beads going. Like, I'm really scared that we're not going to make it back home. We're going to be stuck overnight in Seattle.
Oh, so bad.
It was really nightmarish. But
Yeah.
so
So I'm spewing a cloud. I'm followed by a little black rain cloud. And
Yeah.
then we get to the dock and the ferry worker's like, hey, your truck is just dumping oil
Yeah.
all over the dock and I can't let you on the ferry like that. I'm like, oh, is
Yeah.
this supposed to do that? Apparently not. No,
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't. I knew that.
Yeah.
But so I had to jump out of ferry and turn around.
I know. And I had I had gone through the ferry line.
Yeah.
I was 1 minute from loading.
Mm-hmm.
And you call me, and I'm like, okay, we're at the ferry. We're
Yeah.
okay. We made it.
Yeah.
And you called me, and I totally ditched the kids. I'm like, you guys stay in the car. I'm walking out, and I walk to the front, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I can't believe we just did that. It was so
Stressful.
crazy. It was very
It's hard,
stressful,
yeah.
and I don't get that stressed that much,
Mm-hmm.
but I was stressed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, kids, just stay in the car. I need to get out and breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And then you called, and then you're like, I gotta go back to the shop.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And then I'm like, do you want me to go leave you in Seattle?
Yeah.
Not knowing if you're gonna make it?
So it's a very dramatic parting. If no one has experienced this, it's unique when you're in line at a ferry dock. It's like ships passing in the night. It's
Uh-huh.
like you're going
Uh-huh.
across the ocean and you have to stay in line or you miss your spot and you're delayed for 2 hours. And I am hopping out of line and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So it's very like, this is a decisive move. Suddenly I don't know how I'm getting home. I have to get a taxi or a Lyft or something.
Yeah.
And you're just going to go home. So yeah, I hopped out of line and then blew smoke and oil all the way back
Through West
to
Seattle.
South Seattle
Yeah.
and just made it. When I got there, I saw that where my truck had been parked was a humongous puddle of oil. So it was just leaking
Yeah.
even while it was sitting there. And the guy came out and was like, sorry, dude. I'm like, yeah, me too. And
Oh, another little fun tidbit about this whole experience was that the West Seattle Bridge was closed.
right.
So we had to take this
Roxbury.
long,
Yeah.
circuitous path.
A longer way.
Yeah. So
Whew. So
anyway, so now we still haven't resolved it.
no,
It's on the property.
They
but
fixed the oil spraying feature. It no longer has that feature.
not after Well, they did, and then we showed up to pick the truck up the third time, and the truck didn't start.
Right. Because they left the keys in it, turned on.
This is what.
Yeah. So that was fun. They had to charge it up for me, and that delayed. Probably missed a boat there.
It built our confidence tremendously in the whole situation. So we're still in the middle of it. We'll let you know next episode, maybe.
But we did get the truck back, and thanks be to God, I was able to do 3 more. And I told Mary, our mother, this is your truck now.
Oh.
I consecrated it. It's her truck.
That's why you got
It's not mine. I relinquished my rights over my box truck.
Oh.
And we got the 3 jobs done.
We did. There was 3 more to go before we could settle into Christmas. So
yeah, and that was 2 big lamb jobs and a local pig job, and it's sitting out there right now, and still underpowered, and
wheezing.
Third gear up all hills.
Yeah.
Sometimes I drop down to second, and then we're going like 8 miles.
Well, no, it was funny because at one time we really were 2 ships passing in the night, because I take the kids off island once or twice a week to go to jiu-jitsu. And you were getting back on the island from, I think, the first of these 3 jobs. And so we saw you coming off the ferry. We're like, oh, there's Dad. We're going to pass him. And then we waited like 10 minutes and he still hadn't come up the hill. And we're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
The kids are like, did Dad's truck explode again? Like, I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
And then I think we saw you pass like 20 minutes later.
Yeah. I pull off to the side so all the other cars can get off, and then I creep up the hill.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's been a fun adventure. But man, those trips to Seattle, that's why I say they are no small thing, because that threw off my whole goose harvesting schedule.
Yeah.
I had to reschedule a job, and it really just mixed up this time of year.
Well, I've been kind of, I feel like we were only able to do the goose thing at half-mast or whatever. I learned afterward. So there's actually, I'm really getting into seasonal songs right now.
Yeah.
So singing and teaching my kids folk songs and things like this. And there are songs around geese.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing, that are like Austrian, German, like all these traditional cultures have little songs. You can sing them in rounds. They're all about St. Martin and his goose, and they're quite beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
Some of them are kind of silly, and some of them are just more quaint.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I want to learn them, and then when you actually kill the geese, like in bulk, then I will hopefully celebrate it more full.
Yeah, and I think we should still roast a couple of them, but the highest and best use, particularly at their current age, would be confit.
Oh, right.
Goose confit.
That's right. We weren't able to do that. Yeah, we just roasted them.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I made really good stock out of them.
Yeah.
So.
You know what would be another good way to cook them is what you did with that duck once, when you went full Julia Child on it, which is where you part it out. And it's so great because you take each part of the duck or goose, in this case, and utilize it to its highest and best expression. You take into account the full nature of a goose leg, which is tougher. It's tougher, but it's extremely flavorful.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is braise it and then cover it in mustard and breadcrumbs and brown those in a hot oven. And that's like, boom.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. And because the skin is a little tougher, you have already taken it off and trimmed it up into little julienne. And then you fry those. Yeah. And then the breast you can sear.
Yeah.
Because that is how different the various meats on a palmipede are, particularly a goose that is 6 months old or however old these are now. The breasts are like steaks that can be pan fried, but the legs and thighs are tougher.
Yeah.
And so they do need that little braise. And so far, the skin has not been tough. So far, that crisps up just ridiculously beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
But that can happen too with an older bird, is the skin will actually be so thick it doesn't crisp.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take it off and julienne it, it's more processes. But I love that about traditional French cookery, is that it's the focus.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at like Elizabeth David or any French cookbook, it's like not how to prepare this well-balanced meal. It's not that. It is how to cook a leek.
Yeah.
How to cook a radish.
How to honor the thing that it is.
It starts from the individual ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to cook a leek. Did you know this? It involves lots of butter. All of them do. How to cook broccoli. How to cook a cauliflower. And you can serve that on its own. How to cook, a radicchio. It's beautiful. I love, and similarly with meat, they just carry that right over. It's not how to cook a goose, though you can roast a goose in one ot. It is how to cook the legs, how to cook the breasts, how to cook the skin.
Sure.
Which I love.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll do it. We'll keep reporting in on our successes.
Yeah, and the main plan that it really threw off, which really was a bummer for me, was the last 2 weeks. I had intended to feed them boiled corn. Only.
Yeah.
So you boil it.
Right.
You want to boil it because that makes it even more accessible to them. It takes less energy for them to break it down. And if we were to do gavage, it would be boiled corn. But they would just... So I wanted to do that for the last 2 weeks. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Next year.
Can't get to everything.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
You have to schedule in the feasting. I mean, you have to. You have to schedule in the cookery because it's not something that happens by accident, and it is not convenient. It is labor.
Yeah.
But it is oriented towards the right ends, so it's really worth doing.
Yeah. We have to make them a priority so that they can continue happening in the future with future generations. I feel like we're building our own, I don't want to say it that way, I guess. Not very many of us Americans inherited traditions, but these traditions existed, especially in the old world. And so right now, you and I are trying to rediscover them.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why that they were pinned to certain times of year, certain feast days, certain liturgical moments in the calendar. And we're just discovering them for the first time, and it's really fun to do that. But yeah, it takes, I mean, sometimes it's easy to get, just feel bad or something, because like I don't really have a grandmother that's like, oh, this is how you make pasta the way I used to do it, like I just don't have that. So we are kind of discovering it for ourselves the first time. But when we do and we put forth the effort, it's really worth it. Yeah. Yeah. And we got to hand it down to our kids too. So I have another question. Yeah. But I think John Luke is trying to get my attention right now.
Is there a baby in her?
There might be. Let me go check.
Yeah, and it can. Some of those recipes can seem difficult. The traditional ones, in particular, I have found. But that's only if you look at them out from the perspective of someone who is limited to buying the ingredients at a store. If you raise the goose, oh my goodness, it's so much easier. It's that effortlessly delicious character of fresh meat again. It's just undebatable. It's so much easier.
This conversation will be continued in a forthcoming Part 2 episode. Thanks for listening, and peace be with you.